welcome. Thanks for coming.
Pleasure.
Tigercub, two members of the band, Jamie Hall, guitarist and singer, Jimmy Wheelwright, bass.
So,
and also there's another fellow who apparently isn't allowed out on Thursdays.
Yeah, he's gone AWOL.
he's got two first names, so he can't be trusted out of his house on a Thursday.
Okay. And his name is James.
Yeah, James.
So there's
Alex.
James, Jamie and Jimmy.
That's right.
Three James, perhaps.
That's
Brilliant.
it.
You just celebrated the release of your second album, Blue is Indigo. I get, blue is a difficult word for me for some reason.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's very similar to indigo.
Well, we're getting somewhere now.
The facts emerge.
So this is, so it just came out a couple of weeks ago, and it's the first album since your debut album, which came out about 2015?
2016, yeah.
2016.
So 5-year gap in between records.
But we did have a little EP Afterbirth in 2017.
That's true.
Okay,
That's true.
yeah. I've got to hear things like...
He's correct.
It's a placenta of a release.
Is it?
Well, it was, yeah.
So there's quite a big gap between albums. Obviously, the obvious question, I know we've been suffering COVID and lockdown and things like that, but can you talk about what's been going on between... I know you were kind of touring till 2018 or somewhere around then. And then you've basically got back to recording and releasing and performing again. So can you talk us through the story a little bit?
Well, we were gunning it since about 2014, 2015, right? Just like back-to-back tours, constantly onto the next release. And then we put these two like really big gigs on sale, Concord 2 in Brighton, which like for Tigercub, that's like a lot of tickets. And then Scala in London, which is like about the equivalent, maybe a little bit more. And like, it just felt like we were really fatiguing our fans and fatiguing ourselves like mentally and creatively, just like racing towards that prize of like these just two like monolithic gigs for a band like Tigercub. It just really would help us like break out of like the sort of local scene, I guess, and be taken seriously more on like a nationwide basis. Like they're just such like, they're such markers of like a band or an artist's growth. So we got those gigs out the way, and then like there was just this sort of like almost unspoken agreement to just like take maybe 6 months off, just collect our thoughts a little bit.
Decompression,
yeah, because it was, it's intense being in a band, and it's like, the collective will of like a group of people and everyone's dreams and stuff like that. It can become, quite easily quite fraught and emotional and stuff like that. So we just like pumped the brakes a little bit, and then that turned into such a massive break because we couldn't get deals together, the correct deal that like felt would have given us the right like jumping off point for the next record. Do you know what I mean? Just like securing more resources and just having the right teams in place in each different area, because you pick up a couple of tricks as you go through like release cycle after release cycle, and you start to realize how to connect the dots in the right way. And like that felt like quite important, that when we do come out with this next record, that it's a total level up and it's much stronger than how we did it before. Because I think that's just how you should do everything in life. It should just always be better. But that took ages. It took absolutely ages. It took bloody 5 years.
But you're one hell of a prolific boy, when it comes to sort of Tigercub ramping up to sort of getting ready to do some pre-production or some recording, the rate in which songs will arrive in a folder, complete, like, particularly in his Blue as Indigo's case, James and I were just sort of watching these brilliant demos arrive, almost on a kind of daily basis at one point. And like, I think, it's
hard to keep up with.
Yeah.
I'd be like, no, I'm sick of that one.
I'm sick of that
this
one.
This one's better.
What is the hell is that one even in? G sharp? But I think there's no, like you say, mental constipation is a bad one to kind of have at a time when you're trying to push a release. So I think it is good to wait until the...
You're trying to push a release.
When you're trying to push a release at your body. So it's much better to sort of, at the sort of top of 2019, that was sort of the time, your side project Nancy it felt like a good time to do that. And James and I both sort of ended up in other sort of touring crews and doing bits and bobs. And for me,
because like James was Blood Red Shoes, and then you were doing stuff with like Nadine
Shah and
like
Juanita Stein.
Laundromat as well, who are a really good band. We all just sort of naturally started doing like our own thing because we were so tethered to Tigercub for so long that like it just happens like naturally. We just did other things for a bit.
I think it's super healthy. I think as long as I think it all feeds into everything else, and you don't want your band to be like a kind of a ball and chain, or like a jealous partner, or a badly behaved spaniel. You want it to be something that feeds your life, not kind of holds you back. And I think that's what we've all realised a bit.
Yeah, because it's all about being passionate and loving what you do, isn't it? When it comes to the creative arts, you have to have that, otherwise it's not going to come across in your music.
I totally agree. I think like sort of intangible things like that do end up like getting baked into the music that you make. So it is really important to take care of it, consider it.
So it's been great. I mean, it was really nice to hear that you guys were back in action, because I wasn't really sure what had happened. I remember seeing you at first time 2016, because you were part of Brightons Finest showcase.
Yeah.
With D-Mob Happy and a band that we still can't work out.
Spit Shake Sisters.
What are they called?
Spit Shake Sisters.
Yeah, that's it.
At latest, yeah.
Well, it was just an awesome show.
It was really
all
fun.
All three of you were just amazing.
It was a
just
real
great
garagey
atmosphere.
thing. I mean, there was a thing happening with those three bands, and certainly the Witches, around sort of like 2014-15, because Late Night Laundry did the movie about these bands, and it was a really nice little movement, I suppose.
That was like the ascension of that generation of bands in Brighton. Sorry to cut you off, but that was like, that time was when everyone was starting to form that scene.
When we're on a porch as old men, we'll talk about that time being like, like, I don't know, it was our 1967 or something. I don't know what it was. It's just like a nice moment.
Yeah.
And we went from that show and we played at the Pull and Pump with Yonica.
I heard that you actually had to go somewhere else and play
as we often did. I mean, we'd often do 4, 5, 6 gigs in a few days over Great Escape, and because we just wanted to be seen and heard and loved. And then we did do one
signed.
and paid. But we did, the only official Great Escape show we did was at the Hope, and it was really tough work, man. It was really dry and looking out over a sea of lanyards.
Yeah.
And then we went over to Nowhere Man that night and played with
Dreamwife.
D-Mob. That was the best
Styler.
gig. Yes, Styler.
And it's mad now, a couple of years later, you sort of look at like the landscape of that like generation of bands and artists and stuff. You can see who's gotten really big and who hasn't, and who's stayed the same and stuff like that. It's really interesting. But one thing's for certain, like, none of those bands can just play like the Pull and Pump or anything like that. Like, everyone's too big to do those old school like basement gigs. So I feel really grateful to just be around at that time, to just see like a band like Dreamwife like just tear it up in a basement to like 30 people who are all on like ketamine. Do you know what I mean? They'll do Concord whenever they come to Brighton or something bigger. It's mad.
Yeah, and I think it's a really good lesson. I'm just it was like Jerry Springer, but for young bands. Just enjoy that bit, don't feel aggrieved to it. Go and play basements to know
God, it's part of the journey, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. I think there's a real race at the moment. I feel that through working at the studio.
You would know. I'm not really sure who's coming up these days.
But there's bands sort of starting up and they're like, right, we want to do Concord. And I'm like, forget about Concord for years. Don't worry about
you're
that.
You're fucking 6 years away from that boss. Unless you get a big deal and you get like the resource, you get the marketing spend to reach the people that you need to convert into ticket holders. Every now and again, you'll get people like popping up on Insta and stuff who like they're in a young band or whatever. I have like a little like daft podcast thing that I do just because I do stuff like that because I'm mental. And like people, there's parts in the show where I open up for questions with people, and I get a lot of like people from bands just being like, how'd you get a booking agent? How'd you get big? How'd you get a record label interested in what you do? And the first thing I say to them is like, find the smallest venue in your town, that like 20 tickets, and just blow it out with your mates. Create exclusivity. That's the name of the game. Do you know what I mean?
And it's all about developing your craft as well, because it's not going to happen overnight, is it?
massively.
Or in
Exactly,
a rehearsal
man.
studio, you have to do it in front of...
Well, it's two
Audiences.
very different things,
Yeah.
and there's a whole generation of players now who are exceptionally good at playing in their bedrooms, but then actually they may not have even done 10 gigs in their lives, and it's a weird moment in history now where people still love music, they always will, but actually what it means to be a successful musician, I mean, to a lot of people, if you have 150,000 subs on Insta playing metal covers, you've done it.
Yeah.
But to me, music's more of a kind of shared communication. Yeah. There's more of a two-way thing, and like, you know, because we've had to taste crowds or taste the lack of crowd, or because we've sort of seen it. You know, we played Download over the weekend, and to look over these like thousands of people and feel like you've actually earned it is really special.
There's a grit that comes with like having to convert people live in real time, and Tigercub is a band that knows that plight so well, because we've toiled on the support tour circuit, which always seems dead exciting when you get the gigs through. You're like, wicked, we're going to do these big venues, it's going to be like great. And it is great because it's free beer, a lot of great catering, it's a party with your mates, right? But the actual job of it is you're showing up, you're standing on stage to like a crowd who are totally indifferent to you.
They're not there to see you, basically.
Actually hostile. Like whenever anything comes into my like domain, I'm hostile
Uninvited,
to it. Yeah, I'm like, what is this shit? And that you have to, it's not a level playing field. Everything has to convince me that it's good from thinking it's shit to start with, assuming it's shit. So I assume that people who receive Tigercub stuff either like on the radio or live already think it's shit. So you've got an uphill battle to convert people. And I think that's a really important part, in my opinion, of like being in a band, just toiling on the gig circuit. And you know, like our booking agent always says, is that if you take longer to go up, it takes you much longer to come down. Whereas if you just rock it up, you're more likely to just like, it's like
burst.
A transient spike and come down. So it's just a safe bet. If you really want to get into music, you really want to be in a band, first of all, I'd say don't, because it's fucking horrible. Yeah. It's a shit life. It's not a very nice life.
Play computer games on Twitch. Play computer games on Twitch. Yeah. That's where the money is, all right?
Yeah, man.
That's good.
Yeah, but you don't know that when you start out. I mean, if you knew that, you know, it'd be like, okay, well, I won't bother, you know, becoming a musician.
But yeah, like you gotta toil.
You do it on the basis of youthful energy and innocence, and like, you know, wanting to explore the world.
That's true. I mean, the experiences, like we've had some of the best times ever on tour as youngins.
Unreal.
So it's worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
he says with a caveat or two.
You should just like cut like Vietnam scenes in the back of my head.
Helicopters, PTSD.
Yeah, it's like fuck.
Well, you two look like you're not mental, and you're survivors.
Yeah,
basically.
the media training's where all the record advance went.
So you obviously mentioned Download Festival, and that would have been your first gig since December 2018.
We played a kind of German all-day festival in Berlin, and that was a weird gig. That was sort of one by itself, which was a bit of a kind of weird appendix, flying in and out. And then we sort of hit the hiatus for a bit, and then everything took time. And it was like the first gig in 2.5 years.
And
first
then
time playing
lockdown
songs.
stopped you playing anyway. If you were wanting to play for 1.5 years almost, I think. So tell us about that experience. That must have been refreshing to do.
Well, when we were tracking As Blues Indigo, it was during lockdown, right? So we didn't even know if there was going to be like Society to come out to afterwards. Like around like March 2020, I think that was a moment where everyone felt like this is all gone a bit wrong, and this might go a bit 28 days later. I swear everyone lived a moment where it was just like, fucking hell, what's going to happen? Yeah.
What do I wipe my bum on now?
Yeah, no toilet roll, we're fucked. Yeah. And like...
No pasta.
Yeah, it was all in my dad's garage. Idiot. Should have known better.
But like, so we tracked the record thinking like, well, we might never play live again. Let's just make the best sounding record we possibly can at all costs. We don't have to... We hadn't finessed the record on the road because we'd been out of action for years. So we hadn't road tested any of the tracks. So we were just there in the studio to do as many overdubs as we like. And if we want to overdub the drums 3 times, let's do it. If we want to tune the guitar totally differently for the chorus, let's do it. Let's totally change the amp setup, which, we never really really go down that rabbit hole on previous releases because we're a live band and we want to try and capture that live and not mess with that too much.
Yeah, we're obsessed with that.
As Blue as Indigo was different. The reason why I bring that up is because when it came to play live, we were like, oh fuck, like how the fuck are we gonna do this?
There's 9 parts in this chorus, but there's 3 of us.
Because there's only 3 of you.
Yeah.
You can always do a pub cover, like a pub rock cover set of your own band, which that's
You
cute.
could have got session musicians, maybe.
We did end up getting our friend Cam to just like take care of some keys parts and some extra guitar bits. But it was, it was quite intensive just trying to figure out like the tunings for every song and how that will work in succession of a set. And just how you can best utilize like 30 minutes of like an audience's time at a festival, like in that sort of environment, you know what I mean? So it was really stressful. We fucking managed it though, I think. We did manage it. And like the set was great at downloads. It could have been terrible, but I think, that's quite a good gamble to have as a band. Do you know what I mean? Because I think you can have higher highs if it's sort of all about to fall apart at any minute, do you know what I mean? All my favourite bands are a bit like that.
So was it a little bit nerve-wracking?
I don't know, there's something different when it's your baby, it's your band, you feel a lot more nerves, like, I don't know, there's just so much to do in a Tigercub set for everyone in the band, there's so much that can go wrong, so many devices that can just run out of battery or stop working. And because there'd be no warm-up, there'd be no... Yeah, we pulled up to download.
You can't even do proper sound checks in festival.
There's just a line check, and there's a kind of really angry monitor engineer from Dublin being like, "Come on." Yeah. So there's a lot of things going on, but it was just like pulling up to the site and hearing a kick drum being sound checked in a field was life affirming. It really was like.
It was educational to watch all the other bands as well, like how they like work the crowd and just looking at the bigger bands who have like their crowd come to see them at a festival. You know what I mean? Because we had to win people over still just because of the size of Tigercub. There were people that were there dedicated to see us, but in a sea of like 10,000 people, that's a small minority of people who know the track. So we realized pretty quickly we're going to have to like convert people and win them over. And that's a different mentality, I think, to go into a set with than like a victory lap if everyone's came to see you.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Because on one side, if you're playing to a big room of your own fans, that's nerve-wracking because you want to deliver and you don't want to like defy expectations. But then when it's like a festival crowd, there is a different set of nerves that go alongside that. A lot more variables, a lot more things that can like.
I can only imagine that, because I only saw a few clips on the TV, but I can only imagine that people were absolutely going mental for it. We're just totally up for it because the audience hadn't been to any kind of event like that at all either. So
totally, man, they were hungry for it, definitely. It was like everyone was really responsive. We got a nice little circle pit towards the end. It was a great show, man. It was like the best possible gig to come back to for Tigercub. It just felt like I don't know, like my shoulders dropped after it and I was just like, whoa, we made it. Like we made it through the last 5 years.
And then what? Did you party or did you go straight home?
We got stuck into the catering.
Oh yeah, the poke bowls. We did a few little kind of backstage. Hello, it's you. Sort of caught up with a few people we haven't seen in a while. That was really nice.
We had a bit of press as well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. When I always say this to my girlfriend Alice because she's like, "Oh, it must be like, I'd love to come to Download Festival with you and do all this stuff," and I'm like, it's really great, but when you're in the production of a festival, it's never as glamorous as you think. It's all just like
porta cabins and
like porta cabins, shitting in
field, and then there's just like people. There's a lot of it's not glamorous really at all.
But then once you've done your gig, you've got maybe an hour of press to do. You've got to say hello to people, so you kind of have to stay in the game. And doesn't really feel like there's that much room for like a sort of Pete Doherty-esque like mentality in today's, because everyone's got camera phones and everyone's basically being filmed. Yeah. So there's just this weird like pensive's the only way I can describe it. And the Download especially as well, like everyone's in fucking fancy dress. Yeah. It was crazy. We were just like, oh, look at that dude.
Yeah,
that's
that
great.
guy's
like,
got nipple tape.
Yeah,
that guy's got wings.
I ain't seen that since 2001.
Oh, And yeah, there is. Oh, you're absolutely right, man. Yeah, and we kind of learned our lesson from Reading Festival, Reading and Leeds 2017, where we'd played Reading on one day, and then we'd like beelined up to Leeds, camped out, and then played Leeds on the second day. You know, having a bit of a party in the campsite isn't a brilliant idea for the next day and the show and the general comfort.
It has consequences.
It does.
It has consequences.
It does.
And then just the nature of us being an independent band as well. I don't know why I'm ranting so much and complaining, but is like once the festival's over, there's a million other things that you've got to do. Do you know what I mean? So you really do have to keep switched on. I would have loved to have just like had loads of smack and like banged a load of like coke up my nose and like gone wild and started like flipping people off, but I can't do that. No, can't do it. Can't be
do that at the playground on the seafront later.
If I was like, if we got paid £1 million to do that load, I would definitely do that.
Oh yeah, totally. Because then we would retire immediately afterwards.
Yeah, we didn't get paid £1 million.
No, we certainly didn't. Bit less.
So that's really great, and then you're going to be touring later on in the year, which is going to be nice, assuming that everything is, you know, we don't sort of go into another lockdown or anything like that. But we won't talk about that. We'll just pretend that everything's going to be hunky dory and it's all going to be, you know, beautiful and everyone's going to be happy. So playing Chalk in November, I think, later on this year.
Yeah.
So nothing between now and then, no live gigs or...
A couple of little things that could happen, but a bit silly for us to say what they are or when they are because we need to sort of confirm it. But yeah, hopefully, kids' parties. I think we've got a christening in Swindon in September. No, we're maybe thinking about doing a Halloween set, as we have done in the past, but we just got to convince the guy who's not here. I think he'll be up for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've actually played in this room at Halloween before, and we, in the past, have done Queens of the Stone Age. So we do Queens of the Stone Age in drag, which is probably the best thing we've ever done as a band.
Queens of the Stone Age in drag.
Sadly,
I'm trying to visualise that.
We've got like this, like we've got really, really tight knit fan base, and like our mailing list subscribers are just like, I just think like crucial to like how we get like what we do out to people and how like we basically, you know, reach people to sell records to. And like we always are thinking of ways to just like reward people for like being on our mailing list and stuff. So try and give out like freebies to people, like first dibs on everything, and like secret gig tickets basically. And like the Halloween parties that we do at Brighton Electric, like where we're recording this interview, like they're always amazing. We'll just like we'll blow out 200 like tickets through the mailing list only, give everyone like a load of free, you know, like Jägermeister or whatever if they send us a couple of bottles, and like just give everyone like a good time and a bit of a party, do you know what I mean? And like a reward for like being bombarded with like, you know, just constantly being asked to buy stuff, you know what I mean? So the secret Halloween gigs that we do are like part of that.
So yeah, I'm just going back to the album. I mean, it's brilliant, really good. I like the sort of different. It's kind of got quite a lot of different dynamics. It feels like it flows, but also there's quite a variation going on as well. A song like "Funeral" obviously is something that's is kind of like almost downbeat, isn't it? It's very whatever the word might be.
Sad.
But it also sounds like it could be released in like the 70s. It could be like I don't know. What's that Scottish guy who was mates with John Lennon?
Rod Stewart.
Yeah, that's it. It could have been a Rod Stewart track from 1928.
Ali McCoy.
Ali McCoy's could have put that out. You know what I mean? It's no, who am I thinking of? He's Scottish. He's
Donovan.
Yeah. A really Donovan vibe from him.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
I love Donovan.
Oh, me too, man. Such a weirdo.
So you actually filmed a video, didn't you, for a funeral in, was it a local church?
Yeah, it's St Mary's Church in Kemp Town. Yeah, that was wicked. It was like the first sort of days of spring, and St Mary's is like is an easy church to hire out. Yeah, they put on a lot of events there and stuff, and like it's just such a magical building. It's like just structurally, it's so like hard not to be in awe of it. But yeah, I felt like a track like that deserved like a nice setting and like a live sort of string. It's not a quartet, 'cause there's three. What would you call that?
Triumvirate.
Yeah, it deserved a string triumvirate. And it sounded so, like the acoustics in the church was so nice. So
yeah. As long as you don't have a snare drum, you're okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
A very slow decay on a snare in the church. Jesus, the power of Christ compels you.
So obviously there's full-on kind of rockers, and then you kind of go into songs like Funeral and followed by Built to Fail, which is kind of a gentle kind of acoustic number, isn't it, to begin with?
It starts off on like a whirly, and there's Jimmy's playing piano on it, and it's more of like a linear, like softer dynamic track, which I just thought that was like a good move to have on a record, because the first 10 to 15 minutes of As Blue as Indigo is like rock, non-stop fucking rock. Do you know what I mean? Forever. And I don't know about you, but like my attention span with records is about 10 minutes. I think it's always a good idea
to break it up a little bit.
You just need like a cigarette break or something, or just go and make a coffee or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Just like a breather, you know, otherwise too much is too much. So I thought it was a good move to just have like a little bit of a sort of a valley.
Yeah, and not just one song, but a kind of couple back to back.
And then just bring it back up, you know, like shift through the gears on the second side, and then have like, you know, sort of we arrive back at the start towards the end of the record, which I think makes a good record. I like it when they have a cyclical sort of nature to them.
Yeah, and Built to Fail, it's really cool that you brought that one up, because that's one that when Jamie was just absolutely prolifically seasoning the demo folder on a daily basis, that one really did stick out to me. And yeah, I'm really pleased that one made the record. There's a few we recorded that didn't, which hopefully will see the light of day. But that was definitely a highlight for me. And it's just nice to sort of be safe in the knowledge that you can go berserk and like making massive noise, but then to dial back from that and not feel like you're compromising what you normally do in any way. It's nice.
No, that's a good point, because like I have this like internal tug of war between being like artistically sound and then commercially where I want the band to go, and like that sort of commercial ambition. And like sometimes, depending on like where I'm at in my head and where I feel like the band's at, sometimes my songwriting can tip too far into the commercial. Like it just goes too poppy, because I'm just like, oh, I want us to do big venues. I want to endow the record with this like huge single that can, you know, get us the resources that we need and stuff like that. And one of the things I really cherish about like the union between like me, Jimmy, and James, the drummer who's not with us. He's alive, but he's just not with us today.
Well, do we know that he's alive? I've not spoken to him today.
I spoke to him.
I'll send him a message.
I think he's still going.
He's still going.
He did not die. But one of the things I'm really grateful for is like, we can always pull it back to, we can find sense in like the just the sheer amount of demos that I put out there. Some are pop and some are really arty and weird. And like between the three of us, like that selection process just really
within
helps.
the first 5 minutes of us, the three of us going towards something, we kind of know if it's a goer or not, and how we're going to do it. And we've because we've done all these cover sets as well, sort of really going through albums and like learning them properly and doing them in drag. You know, that I think has helped us in.
When you play something wearing a dress, it does change.
Yeah, well, you just feel sassy. You feel sassy, and you feel strong and independent, and that's how we've decided to write songs now as well.
Yeah, so we tracked all of As Blue as Indigo in drag.
Wow, mind boggles again. Interesting stuff. Cool. I can imagine you guys look really good in drag.
I've got to say,
I don't know if that's a reflection on me, but
I do enjoy it.
Gender's a construct.
I do enjoy it, yeah.
It's nice dressing up,
construct,
isn't it, sometimes?
Yeah.
Especially in, dresses and things like that.
Yeah, I can't remember what the brief was last time. James looks amazing. I mean, James he'll be the slutty one in the fishnets and the leather
He transitions
jacket.
very easily.
Oh, it's seamless.
Yeah.
And he's not here to defend himself.
He's not. I refuse to lose my moustache because it's basically the source of all my power, so I'd never get rid of that. So I'm the kind of the moustache one. You were a Theresa May zombie last time.
Yeah, I went as Theresa May. It's pretty good.
Running through the fields, perhaps.
That's it.
Fields of
Hay fields.
Dancing with children in nature.
Or the farmer, I tell you though, the farmer. That was Hampson.
Well, thank you very much, guys, for taking the time.
Pleasure.
And really good to see you, firing on all cylinders. Great album, great experience at Download, and looking forward to seeing some more gigs later on in the year. Chalk in November. And thank you.
Cheers, Jeff.
Cheers, yeah.
Ledge.
Thanks for having us.